Welcome back to the Grossman's Country Life. Man, it is a beautiful Saturday morning here in Central Georgia, and I've got one day this weekend to get some work done, and that is today. And so on the agenda is getting this coop painted, trimmed out, maybe the door as well if I have time. And then, of course, the most important thing for today is I'm going to build and install 4 nest boxes on this bottom section of the coop right here that are going to stick out, allow you access to the eggs from the outside. These chicks still got probably 2 to 3 months, maybe a little longer before they start laying, but I want to go ahead and get this knocked out while I can. I'm pretty bad about procrastinating, so we're going to go ahead and get this knocked out today and put some, well, I won't say finishing touches on the coop because I'll be tweaking this thing for a long time to come, but we're going to knock out the bulk of the work today and make this thing look a little more presentable back here. So let's get started. Since I was on a deadline, I decided to start with the paint so I could go ahead and get a first coat on prior to working on the nest boxes. And when I saw the color card for this specific green at Home Depot, I really liked it. But when I picked it up, I knew I'd found my color. It was actually called Farm Fresh. Thought that might be a sign. My hope is that it'll be a good color match for the cedar trim that I plan to use. It might also go well with a pink door for my granddaughter if I end up going that route. I'm still a little undecided on the pink. But once I had the first coat on and everything trimmed out, it was time to work on the nesting boxes. Man, I'm not gonna lie, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out these nest boxes. Can't tell you how many times I changed my mind on how I was going to build these things. But I ultimately decided to start with a good sturdy base frame out of 2x4s that I had left over from the coop build. So I headed over to the miter saw and cut all the materials that I'd need for my base. Once I got the base all assembled, I topped the frame with some scrap 1/2-inch plywood that I had laying around. Once I attached that to the frame of the coop, that would supply the bulk of the support for the boxes. I went on to frame out the sides and the nest box dividers with 2x2s that I'd also ripped from some of those scrap 2x4s. I used 22.5-degree angles for these sides and dividers, not for any particular reason other than I thought it looked good and it made it very easy to make all those cuts on the miter saw. I assembled each divider using Titebond 3 glue and some 2.5-inch decking screws. And then once I had all 5 of the dividers assembled, I attached each to the base, spacing them around 14 inches apart. My entire build was based on the boxes being roughly 14 inches by 14 inches by 14 inches, because I had read you want them somewhere between 12 inches square to 14 inches square, so I erred on the bigger side. Next, I added a strip of cedar that'll keep any future eggs from rolling out the back door when you open that to check on the eggs and the chickens. Then I decided the dividers needed a little more side-to-side support, especially up at the top. So I added some 2x2 pieces between each one using pocket holes and pocket hole screws. Then finally I marked, cut, and installed one of the side panels. I actually cut out both side panels, but I decided not to install the second one or any of the middle panels until after I mounted this thing to the coop. I didn't want those panels to get in the way of me being able to attach the nesting boxes to the coop, which was the next step in this process. Before I could attach the nesting boxes, I had to get this big section of OSB out of the way and block the chickens from the coop so they couldn't escape. Once that was gone, I could go ahead and get my nesting boxes installed. But since I was working solo, I went ahead, I stacked some blocks to help support the weight of that nesting box so I could get the first couple of screws in. And I shot the first one in at the top right corner of the box. Then I put a bunch through the side of the box floor frame into the Coop's floor frame. Then I needed something for the top of my boxes to attach to, so I brought in an old 2x4 to span between the wall studs and the Coop to give me that attaching point. Now with the boxes securely in place, I started covering the remaining openings with some scrap pieces of OSB that I had on hand. Now before I got too far along, I needed to get a board in place in the front of the nesting boxes that would keep the Coop's pine shavings from getting in there and also keep eggs from rolling out and into the pine shavings. I then moved on to covering the remaining side of the nesting boxes, as well as attaching the divider boards between those individual nests. Next up was the lid to the nesting box, which I cut with roughly a 3/4 inch lip on each side and probably an 1 1/4 inch lip out front, just so it would shed rain away from the box. With all that done, it was time to hit the nest boxes and surrounding OSB with some of that Farm Fresh paint. Well guys, I just flat ran out of time on Saturday. Did not get to where I wanted to be. I didn't get the door finished on the front of this Coop. That's just a temporary board in place. And I did not get everything trimmed out the way I wanted. So yesterday was Sunday. The grandkids came over. Time with the grandkids always trumps property projects. So now it's Monday evening. Back out here. We're going to see if we can't get this thing finished up, or at least this phase finished up, so I can finish out this video. So we're going to get started on the door. Can't wait to put that cedar trim on there. I think that's really going to make it pop. But we'll see. So stay tuned. Let's get going. First order of business was to get the door made for the nest box so I could ensure the chickens stay in the coop where they belong. I started with the same piece of OSB that I'd used to cover the door hole the night before, since it was the right size and I'd already put a couple coats of paint on it. I trimmed it out with 2-inch strips that I ripped from cedar fence pickets. Not only did I think the cedar would give it a great look, but the strips help reinforce the structure of the door. I attached the strips with a combination of Titebond 3 glue and 1 1/4 inch 18 gauge brad nails. I then attached the door to the nest box using 3 3-inch hinges, 1 on each end and 1 in the middle. And yeah, those hinges need a little WD-40. With the door attached, I now needed a way to lock it shut. I thought about a few options, but decided to go with just the simplest and cheapest method, the old hook and loop. It's pretty simple and foolproof, and with 1 on each side, I really don't foresee any issues with predators finding their way in, at least not through the nest box door. With the nest box wrapped up, it was time to move on to the trim. Now I eventually want to trim out the whole run, but for this video I was just focused on getting the coop done. And I was still using those cedar fence pickets for my trim, but this time I was ripping them at 2.5 inches, just for a wider, more substantial look along the tops, bottoms, and edges of the walls. As you can see, I also ran a piece of trim across the back edge of the nest box lid, just to help keep water from seeping into the box. Now I'm not treating these boards with anything for now. No, I'm not putting any kind of finish on them. They're cedar, so they're naturally rot resistant, and most of it won't ever get wet anyway. but it will eventually turn a weathered gray, and that's fine. It's a chicken coop, not my living room, so a weathered rustic look over time is just fine with me. Then once I had all the trim wrapped up on the coop, I was ready to call it done, at least for now. Well, all right, guys, it took me a little more than just Saturday as I'd hoped, but I think I can finally call this phase of the coop build done. And I say this phase because there's still a lot more work I want to do on this thing, more dressing up to be done, but that'll come in time. I've got it to the point now. I got the nest boxes ready. The coop looks pretty nice. It's trimmed out. And so I think I can finally give this a rest and get back to other projects here on the property that I'm really looking forward to sharing with you guys. So I hope you'll stick around for that. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell so you never miss another one of our videos. Because again, got a lot of great content coming your way. Not only farm life, homestead, but also just some different stuff, a little off the wall stuff, as well as the typical woodworking projects. So stay tuned for that. And as always, guys, I'll see you on the next video.